We are going to give a couple more minutes to everyone. It's 6 p.m. We know that it's summertime now, so if people are still away or so forth, but we have a very good crowd tonight. So so please be patient and just give a couple more minutes before we start the meeting. Okay, I think we're ready to start. Well, a good amount of people tonight. So, first of all, hello everybody. Thank you for attending tonight's event, and we have a very exciting guest. We thought this would be a great opportunity to do this event. I'm sure that I'm recognizing that many of you that have attended the HLAA convention a couple months ago didn't get any opportunity to ask questions or to reach IB, so we were able to set up a schedule with him, and here we are. This is a great opportunity to do so. I'd like to introduce to myself. My name is Jonathan Olsa. I'm the social media and as a community engagement coordinator for the HLAA Boston chapter. I'll be managing this Zoom meeting tonight. If you guys have any questions, please direct me. Even better, use the hand icon to raise a hand, which is the below of the Zoom meeting. With that being said, IB is a leadership and a coach, a keynote speaker, and an advocate who empowers individuals to break barriers, raise with purpose, and lead with impact. His story to navigating hearing loss and leading global teams offers a powerful message of strength, courage, and hope. Also, he's a former international journalist and a former board member of the HLAA. He is currently served as a commissioner for the Georgia Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. His work spans journalism, communication, IT, and public service, where he guided global teams through crisis and transformation. Through coaching, storytelling, and insight, he equips individuals and leaders to overcome hardship, walk boldly with purpose, and leave meaningful legacy. He helps them develop the clarity and confidence to thrive, no matter their situation. His mission is simple yet powerful to help others rise. before Ebo takes the floor, there are a couple of things I'd like to go over just to lay out some ground rules. So as you guys can see, there are captions available on the bottom, so they're enabled. The meeting is being recorded to be made available to our members via YouTube. Please mute yourself during presentation. Please hold questions to the end of each topic. For Q&A, please raise your hand on the hand icon on the bottom of the Zoom, which is, I mentioned that already. Now that if you guys are a little shy asking questions, please feel free to DM me and I'll be happy to ask Ebo a question. Oops, sorry about that. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Ebo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jonathan. Let me share my screen here. Make sure that you can see. Okay. I believe you can see my screen, right?
Yes, I can see your screen, but make sure you put in the presentation mode.
Yes, I had some things going on with that, but I would go ahead and just present it this way. I think it would work out. It's good to connect with you all. I am so excited about today. I have been looking forward to this session and I cannot see you all. I'm just trying to see if I can switch to the settings where I can see everyone. That would be awesome. If not, no worries here. It's okay, I guess, when I stop sharing my screen. So here's the advantage. You all can see me and I cannot see you. So this is going to be fun. I am so thankful, Jonathan, for that introduction. And I do appreciate you all welcoming me to this chapter. Carrie, thank you for inviting me and on this very important topic that we're going to be talking about today, transformation, because stigma, which is one of the things that I'm going to be talking about, or the main thing that I will be talking about, is more than a concept. For many of us, it's personal. If you experience hearing loss, then you certainly experience situations of stigma and the weight that it comes with. So before I go any further, I just want to inform you that by the end of this presentation, if you're someone who you're still wrestling with the whole idea of stigma or hearing loss, the weight that it carries, and it can be heavy, by the end of this presentation, you will be more equipped to move forward. You'll be more empowered to deal with it and to live a life, the life that you've always dreamed of, the life that you've always hoped for. Maybe you experienced hearing loss recently, and that can certainly bring with it a heavy weight. I remember when I was newly diagnosed, it was a big shock to me. It took a while for me to get over it. And maybe you've been dealing with this most of your life or all of your life, and you felt challenged. My goal in this presentation, in this speaking to tonight, is to really empower you to see what is possible for you. But before I go any further, I want to share a little bit about myself. I am originally from Sierra Leone, West Africa. It's a beautiful country in West Africa. As a little boy growing up, I had dreams of becoming a leader in the future. And so, one of the things I really enjoyed doing was spending a lot of my time with older adults, learning from them, their wisdom, And one of the things that really hit me, I get to experience it now that I'm married, and my wife always makes fun of me about this. I never really watch kids' movies. I never really did. I really didn't have time to watch kids' movies. So now that I have three little beautiful kids, I get to watch all these movies, and my wife and I can be talking, and she's like, talking about this childhood movie that she enjoyed. And she's like, "Did you watch that movie?" And I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot. What did you do when you were a kid again?" And we laugh about that because there was a lot of things that I was dealing with as a young boy growing up. There is one specific instance that I want to share with you. I think it was about the age of 8, 9, 10. I used to be sometimes very excited getting out of school. I used to live, there are many mountains in Sierra Leone, so I used to live up in the city on the mountains, where Forabe College is the University of Sierra Leone, where my dad used to lecture. And one of the things that I really loved was getting out of the classroom, out of school at the end of school, and walking down to campus where my dad was lecturing to check his mails. I still remember his post box number to this day. It was PO Box 5454. And every time I go and I open the mailbox and I find a mail, I get so excited. Most of the times, it used to be magazines that he subscribed to from Oxford University, where he attended and he also lectured there. And I'm excited. I'm like, I can't wait to go home and share this and give dad this magazine. Only to get home and to be reminded that my dad is never going to read that magazine. All the mails that I gathered for him, he would never read that magazine or the mails. And the reason being because my dad passed away when I was only 3 years old. And growing up, I held there was a vacuum inside of me, and a sense of loss that I just never found a way to express it, to share what I was feeling on the inside of me with anyone. My mom, my siblings, I just could not share how I was feeling. And if you've experienced loss, and obviously there are different forms of loss, but loss is loss. You know it's not easy. And maybe you're one of those today where you experiencing hearing loss and you've really not shared how you felt before. In hindsight, I wish I had the opportunities to share how I was feeling to help take the weight off of me. And then one thing that helped me was I trusted that in spite of the loss of my father, I had a bright future ahead of me. I was hopeful and I looked forward to fulfilling my dreams where I could impact the lives of people. And so God put another man into my life. His name is Uncle John. And Uncle John was like a father to me. He did everything for me. He would give me a haircut back in the days with the scissors, right? Old school. And he would shape my head really nicely. No one else would touch my head. Whenever Uncle John goes away for maybe like a month or two, you sure know that I will wait for him until he returns. He loved me so much, and we did so many things together. I remember about the age of 12, I got a news. My mom came home and she was in tears, and I asked what's going on. And I had this really sad news that Uncle John had sadly passed away. You might know that there was war going on in Sierra Leone at some point in time. So he became a victim of civil war. He was killed during the war. And so by this time, you can begin to imagine the loss. Again, it opened those old wounds of wrestling with the loss of my dad. And now comes Uncle John. And a year later, another father figure in my life. And there are just so many losses all over the place. Like, how can I deal with this as a young boy? And by the age of 14, I lost everything, became a refugee in another West African country because of the war. It's a whole story for another day, how I survived in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, escaping. And can you imagine maybe you have a 14-year-old or maybe a 14-year-old grandson, or maybe you can even go back to your days when you were 14 years old and how life was. But for me as a 14-year-old, I had lost everything. I had lost a lot to give up, to cause me to give up. But in spite of, I knew that there was hope. In spite of, I never gave up. And fast forward, I came to the United States, did my schooling in Baltimore, so excited to start fresh. I had some time to put those losses to, I had something new, essentially. That's how I would put it. Get an education, something that I had longed for, higher education, and just do my best. I did my undergrad in University of Baltimore, and then I went to Towson University where I did my master's. Then a decade ago, exactly, just about more than a decade ago at Towson University, my final year, I went to the campus clinic for allergy symptoms. And while I was there, the doctor mentioned that there was hearing screenings being offered on campus. And this is because I had told him to check my ears, put his fingers slightly gently into my ears. They felt different. And he was the third doctor that I get to share this. I get to ask him about this. And he checked my ears and he said, your ears is perfect, is clean, but there is a hearing screening going on campus for speech language pathology students. And he recommended that I go check it out. Now, I had never heard about a hearing screening before. I wasn't worried. I had no symptoms, or so I thought. I was just curious to learn more about these hearing screenings. And when I arrived at the hearing center, they handed me a headset. I'm sure many of you recognize this. And they said, raise your hand when you hear a beep. I nodded. So I waited and waited. A full minute passed, not a single sound. That silence, it changed everything. Another test confirmed something I never expected. I had moderately severe bilateral sensorineural hearing loss, something I'd unknowingly lived with for probably at least a decade. I had no language for it, no roadmap, just shock and silence. What I didn't know then was that one of life's hardest truths, sometimes stigma hurts more than the diagnosis itself. For years, I wore a mask. Behind it, internalized stigma, shame, especially as a young man wearing hearing aids. isolation, and the shaken sense of identity as I began to doubt myself. But I later learned that this wasn't just my story, it's a silent journey of many. How many of you have ever tried to hide your hearing loss, or maybe even felt hurt when someone didn't understand? Raise your hands. And I obviously cannot see you right now, but you can also feel free to use the chat because we're going to make this interactive. You can just type in the chat. You can just type me if it applies to you. I want to share with you that you are not alone. There is a community ready to walk with you. And today, as we turn silence into strength by first understanding what stigma really feels like. I see chat. Yes, I see in the chat someone, Peggy says, yes, definitely. I see Carrie says, I did for decades in my professional life. Yes, great, great, awesome. Now I can see the chat. So let's talk about when I first felt stigma. Because stigma doesn't always scream, sometimes it whispers. A few months into a new leadership role, I emailed the global team I was working with to share my hearing loss diagnosis. I wanted to be transparent to help them understand how best to communicate with me. Later during break, a colleague asked, "Are you going deaf?" He probably meant well, but he didn't understand. And it hit me hard. It confirmed the fears that I hadn't voiced out, that I'd be judged, seen less capable, treated differently. All these feelings that I was feeling on the inside. And that's when stigma became real, not just a concept, but a weight that I carried. So I pulled back. I went quiet, like that little boy who went quiet when I experienced loss and dealt with it all on the inside. That moment and what followed is why today I so deeply uh, care about how stigma even shows up in the workplace. But it doesn't end there. Stigma follows us home, into our communities, into our identity. Whether you're working, retired, or newly diagnosed, you've probably felt its weight. So let's talk about the invisible weight and how we can begin to lift it. I see Angie says, others gave me that stigma, the name of the girl who can't hear. Yes, and it hurts, right? But today, if you are experiencing, anyone who is listening to me right now, if you feel that way or you feel uneasiness about these challenges that come as a result of this, I'm going to share with you 5 strategies that helped me in the journey to overcome, to deal with that, and to live the life that I have been called to live. So let's talk about the invisible weight, because we often think of stigma as something external. But most of the time, it's silent, internal. It shows up in everyday moments, feeling ashamed to wear hearing aids, even though they help. I remember the first time I wore my hearing aids and just walking down the streets, I would turn looking over my shoulders, wondering, what are they thinking about me? Do they think I'm going deaf? Like all these thoughts were going through my mind. Even withdrawing from social spaces, not by choice, but because it was exhausting to keep up. Shame around hearing aids is more common than you might think. A Forbes Health survey found that nearly half of adults with hearing loss believe there still is stigma attached to wearing hearing aids. And that feeling is even more common among younger adults. So I want you to, just think about that experience, because for me, it wasn't just one moment. It was, like I said, years of masking and staying quiet when all I really needed was to be heard. And so, if all of that feels familiar, that weight was never yours to carry alone. So let's talk about the 5 strategies that I shared that really helped me to transform stigma into greatness. Number one, it starts with you. And I did share a handout. I think it's in the chat. You probably have a link there with a document that maybe you can print that out. Maybe you can write some notes. You can follow along as I go through these 5 steps. Write some of the things, the action steps that you can take today to transform stigma into strength. The first battle, it's quiet and it begins inside. Before anything changes around you, something has to shift within you. Helen Keller once said, "What I am looking for is not out there, it is in me." And so you have to believe this. Hearing loss does not disqualify you from your dreams. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you less. But keeping everything inside can. I can begin to share how devastated I was. And, as I kept all of that within me after the diagnosis and after I started wearing hearing aids, constantly looking behind my back, um, isolating myself from social gatherings, always being very mindful what are people thinking about me. And truly, that can be exhausting, having to go to work during the day and having to think through problems and challenges, and then here again thinking about what I'm dealing with on the inside, which no one else gets to see. Maybe that's your story today. It's hard, it is challenging, it is tough, but that shift from silence to strength starts when you stop carrying it alone. When you got to notice the voices in your head. Is it doubt? Is it fear? Is it shame? Then challenge it. Remind yourself, I am not alone. I still have a purpose. I can rise. You don't need to have it all figured out. But when you believe your future is still possible and you're open to help, amazing things happen. Maybe you already retired, but before you retired, you just said, by the time I retire, I'm going to be volunteering in the library, I'm going to be connecting with people, we're going to be doing amazing things. And then the weight of hearing loss, maybe dealing with it on the inside, thinking that, well, it's going to be challenging operating in that environment. Yes, I have hearing aids, so I have cochlear implant, but it's just one of those things that I rather stay home. Today, as we're beginning to talk, you get to experience that shift that, yes, it is possible. And that's when everything starts to change. And it starts to change once you make up your mind and say, I am ready for that change. I am ready for that transformation. I am open to it. And then you connect with someone that you trust for support. Because stigma grows strongest in silence. And maybe you're shy, or maybe you're scared. Um, or maybe you're thinking, what if they judge me? What if they just don't understand? But here is the truth. The first time you open up is the first step to freedom. Talking to someone you trust, whether that's a therapist, friend, a supervisor, or even a coach, isn't just about getting something off your chest. It's about refusing to carry the weight alone. Because when someone sees you, supports you, and believes in your worth, they keep your hope alive. They remind you that your dreams still matter and that you matter. I know this because I've lived it. For me, that person was my wife, Joy. I remember she would sit with me for hours when we just got married, and she was trying to understand hearing loss and what I was going through. I used to be mostly quiet, but she would spend hours, and no exaggerating. Sometimes she would talk for an hour and a half, encouraging me. And my feedback was maybe just 5 minutes feedback. But I'm so grateful because luckily for me, though, my wife, she loves to talk. And, if you ever get a chance to meet her, please don't tell her I said that. I'm just kidding. But in that season, right? I really needed someone who really would talk, right? How many of you resonate with me? How many of you just would love somebody, or maybe you have someone who just loves to encourage you? It's put it in the chat if or maybe you're one of those people. Just type the word me in the chat, because it really matters and it really helps when we have that person who can support. And when I was finally ready to rise, when I made that shift in my mind that, yes, finally I'm ready to move on, she was the first person to say, let's go. She even drove me to my first HLAA convention in Florida, all the way from Georgia. And bonus, she did 85% of the talking during that road trip, too. How amazing. How amazing when you can find someone who can support you even in those low moments. It helps to uplift you. So my question to you is, who is that person that you can trust for support? And if you haven't found them yet, and maybe you can say, Ibrahim, I have tried, I don't have any family, I just don't know anyone who can support me, then I have good news for you, which takes us to our next point, the power of community. Because stigma thrives in silence, but community breaks that silence. Because the moment you realize you're not alone is the moment stigma starts to lose its power. Whether it's a church group or a support network or national organizations like the HLAA, communities offer more than encouragement. I remember when after 7 years, after 7 years of my hearing loss diagnosis and 7 years in deep isolation, thinking that I'm the only person who is experiencing hearing loss. I did not know anyone else experiencing hearing loss. And I discovered the HLAA. And I discovered the private Facebook group, the community group of support. That's when something changed inside of me. That's the one that I know, and it just gives you tools, strategies to navigate hard conversations, words to express what you are feeling, and the perspective reminding you again that you are not alone. Because until then, I always felt ashamed, afraid, confused. But that's the power of community. Last month we had the HLA convention, and I got to meet some of you there. But to just see the gathering coming together, the first time I experienced the convention, I felt like a kid who was just maybe handed a big candy bag. Just the excitement. I'm like so excited that I finally found people who can understand me. And so there lies the power of community. I found strength. I had already started working on me on the inside. And then two, I had my wife as a support person. And now I have a bigger community, right? How many of you uh, well, I can't see in the chat again, but if you've been, maybe you can actually put in the chat, right? If you've been connected with the HLAA, maybe you can put how many years you've been connected with this community. Because if you've been around for at least a year or even maybe a month, and you've experienced something powerful, it means that there is power in the community. So you can feel free put in the chat how many years, like the year that you first joined, or maybe it's 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. You can put that in the chat because that in itself has power in it. I see 8 years. I see Angie says since 2009. Amazing. 8 years. Carrie says 8 years. Sarah says 8 years. That's amazing, right? So Angie, Carrie, and Sarah, all of these people, and many of you who have been a part of the HLA, this community, you really know the power of the community. And so if you're watching today for the first time, or maybe you actually in this, if you're watching right now, or maybe you're watching the recording, but if you're watching right now, and maybe you just got diagnosed with hearing loss, and you're wondering, who can I connect with? Well, if you look in the chat, there's so many people you can connect with. They can share with you. Angie, my friend, she can share with you the power of community. Carrie, Sarah, and so many others. They can share with you, and they are there to support you, because that's what makes us stronger. Community, it makes us stronger, and it helps us remind us that we're not alone, we're not broken. You are not broken, and you can move on to live a life of purpose. It's a powerful one. And then we get to move on to item number 4, the fourth strategy now, which is how to begin to advocate for yourself and to own your story. Because one of the most powerful ways to push back against stigma is by learning to advocate for yourself clearly, confidently, and without apology. My first real experience with this, before even I share that, well, I actually mentioned to you, right? When I was first diagnosed and just again wearing hearing aids, looking behind me, who is watching me, I did not have the stamina to even think about advocating for myself. I was in hiding. But now again, like I mentioned, I start to make that decision within myself, my mind, that yes, there is something greater ahead for me. Just like there is something greater ahead for you, your dreams, your goals, your life purpose, right? And so step number one, I started to work on me on the inside. Is it really possible? Well, I just had to be open-minded and give it a try and see. And sometimes it takes this level of consistency, right? And then now I have the support of my wife, somebody that I can trust, somebody that I can share how really I am feeling as a result of, the hearing loss. Maybe I went to a meeting at work and it was just so challenging to keep up with the conversations. And I come home so exhausted, and I said, it's because of my hearing. It was a lot of excuses because of my hearing, because of my hearing. And just to get that encouragement that you are stronger than this. It does not have control over you. You have control over it. It starts to really empower me to believe that yes, hearing loss or stigma does not have power over me. And then I get to connect with a community like the HLA community. Many of you have been here for years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, and more, right? You get to experience that power of community. All of these things together create a shift and create a transformation. And here you are now here I was now beginning to finally speak up and advocate for myself. But here is how it started, very interestingly. God knows how to work in amazing ways. Because my first real experience, it wasn't at work. It was at home with my daughter Gloria, and you can see her there in the picture. She was just about 4 years old at the time. She had asked me sometime, maybe when she was 3 years old, and somewhere along those lines, like I was carrying her and she was tapping on my hearing aids. Daddy, what is this? And I had to take my time to explain to her. I didn't see her as just being a little girl she wouldn't understand. No, I told her, I said, Gloria, this is my hearing aid. It helps daddy understand you clearly when you speak. And so she really got to understand what daddy was going through whenever I had the hearing aids on. And I could see the curiosity in her mind. But one specific day, I was talking with her little brother, Nyake. He was probably 2 to 3 years old at the time, and I really couldn't understand what he was saying. To my surprise, Gloria ran into the room, grabbed my hearing aids, and returned and said, Daddy, here's your hearing aids. That moment changed me. It taught me something that if I could explain to a 3 to 4 year old and she could understand and support me, then it means that I can advocate for myself. I can explain it to anyone at work, in the public, wherever I am. That's advocacy. It's okay to start small. But when you do speak up, whether to a colleague, a friend, or even your boss, you shift the narrative because you own your story. You break in the silence and you break in the stigma that comes as a result of the situation. And now we're ready to rise. Now you're ready to rise because you have all these things working in your favor. Sometimes they're all working simultaneously. Because now you are saying to yourself, stigma may try to write your story, but it doesn't get the final word. You do. Rising doesn't mean forgetting the pain. It means deciding it wouldn't hold you back. And for me, rising, after going through all of this and making that decision, rising with strength led me to join the HLAA as a board member and being appointed as a commissioner for the Georgia Commission for the Deaf or Hard of Hearing by the governor of Georgia. When you choose to rise, doors will open for you. Not just for you, but for others too. Now, I can certainly tell you, had it not been for the shift in my mind, had it not been for the support I got from my wife, had it not been for the support I found in the community, the HLAA Facebook group, at the convention where I get to meet a lot of people, many of you, I get to meet you through the HLAA. Had it not been for the power of community, had it not been to start to little by little start to advocate for myself at work, in meetings, advocating for closed captioning, hearing loops where applicable, had it not been for those little small steps, I would not have been able to rise. When I experienced the transformation and when those doors opened for me, it reminded me what it means to never give up. It took me back to the journey like a little boy growing up and experiencing the loss of my father, didn't have a way to explain truly the loss that I was experiencing. And then losing everything, becoming a refugee in West Africa, and just dealing with the stigma of being a refugee. And then coming to the US and being diagnosed with hearing loss and having to deal with stigma again. And even double stigma is what I learned they call it, because there's some cultural aspect related to the stigma of hearing loss in those areas, like the country where I'm coming from. And so I felt depleted emotionally. But then everything changed. It started with me. And no matter where you are in your journey today, everything changes when you make that decision that today I am no longer going to let hearing loss or stigma hold me back. All those dreams, whatever the dreams that I let, maybe just let those dreams die. Today is the day that you get to make the decision to say, no, I am going to rise out of the loss. It no longer has power over me. Now, I don't, it doesn't matter whether they call it hearing loss or hearing impaired or whatever naming, because there could be some sensitivities around that. When you deal with it on the inside, and I used to be very sensitive to that too, hearing loss. I never wanted to be associated with the name hearing loss. It just bothered me, right? Disability, the thoughts that I have a disability. No, I don't want somebody to tell me that. Those are all external factors. But when I started working on the inside of me, and I said, this no longer has a power over me, right? Because I know that I have a purpose. I know I have something greater ahead of me. I can rise. And I say to you today, you can rise. It might be a difficult situation, a challenging situation, and I do understand, and fairly so. And Albert Einstein says, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. There lies your opportunity today to rise. Because this is your time. And if you're asking, if you say, well, I'm still struggling, and I would say that is understandable. It's understandable to feel the weight, but now as you begin to take that first step, things start to change for you. But remember, you are a human, and that's why we connect together. Stigma can be challenged, it can be conquered. And just a reminder that you are not alone. You have the power to change the narrative, not just for yourself, but for others walking this road too. So here's my invitation to you. Challenge your mindset, because how you see yourself shapes what's possible. Step into advocacy, self-advocacy, speak up, educate others, and ask for what you need without apology. Reconnect with community, because connection is your superpower. Mark Hyman said, the power of community to create health is far greater than any physician, clinic, or hospital. Walk boldly in your purpose. Your story matters, whether you're working, whether you're retired, or mentoring someone who is just starting out. Your story matters. Walk boldly in your purpose. And maybe your purpose is advocacy or offering hope to someone who is newly diagnosed. Or maybe simply saying that I have been there too. This is how we rise from silence to strength. This is how we dismantle stigma, one voice at a time. And before we go, I just want you to make a commitment to yourself. I just want you to say to yourself, today I turn stigma into strength, because you have the power to overcome. And you have those dreams that you're finally activating again. Whatever it is that you had put aside and say, because of hearing loss, because of my hearing loss, I can't do this. You have the power to rise, and your time is now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debo. That was an amazing speech, and we could even ask for a better one. You really inspired a lot of people, especially in the chat room. As you can see, a lot of people are giving positive feedbacks and a lot of motivation. And I remember that the first time I met you, and talking to you about our similar challenges that we have that we both faced, and I can really put put myself into those shoes that I did face those challenges. So that was a great speech, and thank you so much for
Thank you.
doing this. With that being said, um, here we are in this next slide for a little Q&A. So, does anyone have any questions or any feedback that you would like to comment on?
And thank you all for the comments in the chat. I'm going through those comments. I appreciate all the feedback there. Remember to download the handout that I put in the chat. I will be posting an ebook as well on my website sometime soon that goes in depth into just how to deal with hearing loss and the stigma that comes along with that and how we can overcome that. So I will keep you posted. Carrie, I will keep you posted when I have that up.
Yes, so basically what I did, guys, was during when he was speaking, I added some information and email if you ever want to talk to him and among other things. We do have our first hand raised by Pecky, who is sort of like our
Oh.
part-time HLAA Boston chapter. So go ahead, Pecky.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Peggy. Good to
Okay.
see you.
Good to see you, Ebe. Good to see everyone. I'm wondering, Jonathan, can you take the slide down so we can see each other? Is that possible?
Oh, yes.
So I'll
Oh,
just make a comment and two comments actually. And first of all, you're just an amazing speaker. And there were several times during your talk when I got a little choked up. A wonderful, amazing, inspiring story about resilience. And you're just the best. So this is probably the most important thing I've learned in struggling with hearing loss for much of my life. And that is that my sense of agency, like my sense of myself and keeping myself mentally, emotionally healthy with this, is about building my life around situations where I can actually participate because I can understand the spoken language. So that can mean I've had to make some hard decisions. Like I had to leave, I left a church where I raised my children and reestablished myself in another church where there is this awesome hearing loop and open captions, like an embarrassment of riches. Or the weekend with friends during the summer when they just can't slow down. Like especially if they've had a couple of glasses of wine, they just can't do it, no matter how many times I tell them. And so what I have committed to doing is instead of going for 2 nights and 3 days, I'm going to go for 1 night and 2 days. And that way I avoid auditory fatigue, which sends me to bed for 2 days when I get back. So what I'm saying is like really hard decisions, like emotionally hard decisions to change um, rituals and habits and traditions because I'm building my life around communicating as well as I can. I want to die of something that's not related to my hearing loss. And so that's what I have to say about this. Thank you for everyone who's here. And I'm so proud of this chapter and all the great work you're doing. And this is terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peggy, for the kind words. Is there anything you want to add, IB?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Peggy. It's good to hear you and to just hear your story. I think many of us can relate to that. Even before I understood the effects of hair, well, first of all, when I was diagnosed in 2013, I just didn't know what the impact. I actually did not even do any research. I just knew I was diagnosed, and I went into isolation. And so I used to experience a lot of the fatigue. A lot of times, sometimes I would wonder, like, why do I feel so tired? Right. And really it was when I started connecting with this community that I get to realize, like, hearing loss and keeping up, right? It takes a toll on the body. And that in itself was a new discovery for me. And so I totally resonate with you. We all different, and different strategies work. So your example you mentioned, Peggy, instead of 3 days, cutting it down to 2 days and one day. Those are very helpful tips. I appreciate you sharing that, because we all are different capacity, how we handle different situations or different discussions is very different. And even just the ability you mentioned, hearing loops, right? That's one of the things that I've also been advocating for in the churches. Every time we get the opportunity to advocate for things like accessibility, hearing loops, right? All of that help, because there are others who really need this, but they may not be in a position to speak up, or maybe they don't even know how to speak up. But then they start to see us speaking up, and they learn from our examples. We get to learn from your example, Peggy, right? Like, instead of going 3 days constantly, maybe how about I just take 2 days or one day, and I give my very best in that moment when I'm there that one day. And just also taking self-care into consideration. So I do appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Definitely, I definitely agree with you just mentioned about self-care. It's very important to all of us, and especially dealing with the hearing loss. Um, Yeah, that's where we come from, and we intend to understand ourselves and try to overcome the barriers and the challenges. So, there are two questions before we go to Carrie. In the chat room, we have this woman named Elise, and she asked, "Where and when did you meet your wife?"
Oh, great question. I met my wife in community college in Baltimore. Was it when 21 years ago now? I met her in 2004. Interestingly, I never knew that we are even gonna be together. She was my best friend for 6 years. It never even crossed my mind that we would even date, right? Sometimes I would have an event that someone would invite me for an event with hand me 2 tickets. I'll call her up, give her 1 ticket. Sometimes she's going through some challenge with class. She will call me up, ask for advice. It was a very professional relationship. And so when we finally get to connect now, 6 years later, we started talking. It felt a bit weird. It's like, she's we had this professional relationship and now we're starting to date. But that's how stuff happened, right? When God does something. And I'll tell you really quick a backstory to that. I prayed for my future wife when I was 12 years old. Now I tell everybody, I tell that, they're like, what were you doing 12-year old? You should be out there playing, right? And I told you I didn't even get a chance to watch kids movies. But I was thinking a lot about my future. So I prayed for my future wife and the type of wife that I wanted. Because again, it was during those moments when I was having those quiet, silent times dealing with all the loss of my dad, Uncle John, and two other father figures in my life. And so years later, I get to meet my wife, and 6 years, and then we also dated for 6 years, by the way. So I knew her 6 years, and then we dated for so long. And she's like, what taking you so long? And so I remember when I finally got my hearing aids, it was about within 2 weeks of receiving my hearing aid. She was in North Carolina. I was in Baltimore at the time, and I was just talking to her on the phone. And I said, can you please come to Baltimore? There's something I want to share with you. It's really important. So she came over, took her out to the restaurant, and that's when I went to my niece and I proposed. I said, will you marry me? And I said, because I finally got my hearing aids and I can finally hear you say, I love you.
That's like, it's like everything happens for a reason, it's amazing. And that's a really amazing story. And the fact of how you proposed, you made her come all the way to Baltimore.
Oh
So
yeah, she did. She did. And one last thing, because I said a lot of my life was wrestling with the sorrow and all the losses, and I prayed for her, and I truly believe that God answered my prayer because her name is actually Joy, and she brings along so much joy. So not only
uh,
to me, but to to our kids, and to everyone else who is around us. So I'm very
that's a
grateful.
perfect name. That is
Yeah,
a perfect name. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that sounds like a really amazing story of how like to have someone important
yeah.
um uh, behind you. There's another question coming from Sarah, which is actually a pretty good question. It says, "What are some groups outside HLAA you speak about hearing loss?"
So I get to tell that's a very good question, right? And I'll tell you how it started. Let me put it this way: I get to talk about hearing loss wherever I can right now, whether it's in my church, whether it's advocating for hearing loops, whether it's at my job. And I have spoken at my job. I've spoken at Toastmasters, for example. I shared about this. I use every opportunity to raise awareness about what hearing loss is, and I have gotten to see people respond, especially when I explain how things used to be for me, right? I'm watching my sister watching TV when I came to the US. I'm like, what does she understand? How, like, I'm blown away. She must have a really amazing brain that she can understand. I can barely understand anything. In the classroom, I used to go for classes, and my professors, I couldn't understand. I just go take notes, come home, and then 4 o'clock in the morning, I get up to study to keep up. I thought that was normal. But then when I finally got my hearing, the diagnosis, in all of that experience, now I get to share how life used to be for me before the diagnosis. I get to see a lot of people can say, "Oh, wow, I think I'm experiencing something like that too. I'm not understanding." So again, I use every opportunity that I get to share about the hearing loss, other groups, whether it's like I mentioned, it's at my church, it's at my job, really advocating. I get, or maybe it could be even with friends, right? So every opportunity, I get to use that.
It's amazing uh, of how the path leads you to something, and then you, in a way, find your name calling. So that's an amazing way of to look at it, and to take that platform and
Yeah.
express and share your feelings to others.
Yeah, and really quick, there's a Toastmaster that I attend right now. It's called Audible Talkers Toastmasters. It's a Toastmasters for people with hearing loss, and so we have people from all walks of life. My friend Angie, I think she's here right now on this call. That's where I get to meet her. Amazing people. This has all the hearing accessibility, closed captioning, and the transcript. And so we get, we empower, we inspire each other, and then we leave those meetings, even empowered to go out and share our stories a lot more with others so that they can really get to understand. So I say sharing the story could be with one person, two people, it could be with a group, it could be with hundreds or thousands of people. Whenever I get the opportunity, I get to share because just one life impacted makes a big difference.
One life, one shot. Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna move on to Carrie, who is the HLAA Boston president. So, Carrie, if you could unmute yourself, then the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jonathan. So I'm glad that we just were talking about Toastmasters, because I do think that that's also a great opportunity outside of HLAA for folks with hearing loss to get together in a comfortable setting and work on communication skills. And I know personally for me, I have just recently joined that group. For me, the challenges of balancing my self-awareness of my hearing loss and then being confident in my communication, that's something I will feel better about if I can practice a little bit, before I'm in, say, a more high stakes communication environment. So if anyone feels that that would be, something they want to learn more about, there are 3 of us on the call here that are involved in that group, and I just have found it very uplifting to have that also as a community, to grow my confidence and my ability to advocate effectively. I did want to say one other thing that came to mind when we were talking about getting beyond the stigma.
Yes.
For me in
Yeah.
my journey, part of it was also telling myself that I had some super skills or things that I was exceptionally good at, some of which I believe grew out of my hearing loss. So for example, when I worked in business for decades, I always had a very unusual ability to process both the macro and the minor and the micro issues around a particular situation. My work colleagues would be blown away that I could do that. Well, little did they know that that was something I did, that was really understanding context, right? when you're trying to make sense of what you're hearing and assure that you're fully comprehending, whatever is being spoken. For me, it was a business setting. Being able to think at the high level, think at the low level, and, make sure that you were using all that your brain could have as a reference to understand. That wound up developing into a, highly refined skill for me that I used to balance the areas where I was more challenged. So, I'm sure for each of, the folks on the call, there's things that you do, whether they have grown out of your hearing loss or not. There's things that you do exceptionally well. And, for me personally, it was helpful to remember those at times when I was feeling more sensitive about the areas that maybe I needed more support from my colleagues. I would remind myself that in other areas, I was bringing more than my fair share to the table. So just maybe something that will be useful for others.
Thank you, Carrie. Absolutely, I do agree. It's just one of those things where we deal with our everyday life and where we go to, wherever it's working in the workplace or in a restaurant or so forth. And it's something where we want to feel involved, to be included, to be accepted. So we know that there are challenges ahead, but in this group that we are here tonight and elsewhere, we can do this together and bring and spread this message and bring the awareness to always to educate people every day to help them to have a better understanding what we're dealing with and how can we to communicate, so forth. Is there anything you'd like to add, IB?
Yeah, I would say I totally connect with that. It's an ongoing challenging of self, right? I think in the workplace, for example, uh, even though I've advocated, but every time the situation comes up, there's the one thing that goes in my mind: should I not? And leaning in and always saying, yes, let me. It got to start somewhere. Like in the workplace, for example, for me, uh, it's about it going into a meeting along the lines of what Carrie was sharing and just sharing some of the things that work for me. And is that I try to see, is there any information I can get before the meeting? Anything that's written that I can understand, or maybe even reaching out and asking for high level overview of what the meeting is about. I've also found out that it kind of, especially if the information is new, it kind of helps me follow. And then also in the meetings, like the whole idea of requesting for transcript to turn on transcription. Sometimes it's you have 20 people on a call and just to ask for transcript, right? Again, it starts somewhere. One of the things I also found that works is that having one-on-one meetings, or maybe every time I get a chance to connect with a colleague in person. I got to share the story, right? Find a way to share that story with them. And I also let them know, I said, well, this is, part of the reason why I'm sharing this with you is to help you also understand why in meetings, for people like me, it's important that we have closed captioning. So whenever we go in these meetings, especially if it's the leader, I said, just so you know, is it okay if I turn on closed captioning? So I don't need to request all the time when that person schedules meeting. Every time I turn on closed captioning, they understand, right? And it's no longer like a pressure on me that now in the meeting I have to act. So I think again, it's one of those things where every time so it feels uncomfortable, but once you push through and you do it, you feel a sigh of relief that, wow, I'm one step braver today that I could actually do this, because every time it feels new, but then every time facing it head on, it really helps boost the confidence, and especially feels good when the people that we talk to, we see how they support us. And in other situations I've seen where they even step up before I could ask for something, just knowing the background to make sure that we have the support, the accessibility support that is needed.
Thank you so much, IB. As I'm looking at the chat room, and the person that Encine is really posting a lot of information on the chat room. And Encine, is there anything maybe you would like to add about the Toastmaster? Do you want to do it? Do you want to take the floor? No?
Maybe she's experiencing some audio issues.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
I just wanted to put a plug in for the Audible Toastmasters, which we've already talked about. So thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. And I think she's having problems with getting her video on. But she's unmuted. But Carrie, is there anything you would like to add before? No. Okay. Well, Encine, I'm gonna show a couple of things through the share screen. But once you get your video going, just raise your hand and let me know, and then I'll come back to you. So yeah, so it seems to be that everybody's really engaged tonight about this meeting, and a lot of great questions and so forth and everything. So usually what I do is while we're waiting for Itchine to get her video going, it looks like okay. She said she just put in the chat room of her email address. So if you guys have any questions or anything, you can reach out to her in the chat room. So with that being said, there are a couple of things I would like to go over with you before we close this out. So let's see if I can get this PowerPoint going. There we go. In case not many of you know, I am a SAC member for the Massachusetts Commission for Deaf and Hard of Hearing, and I'm currently working on a hearing aid act bill. It's called Insurance Coverage for Hearing Aid, and as you can see, it's H3946, and there's a QR code. So, what this QR code will lead to your to the change.org. I'm trying to get as many a signature as possible to hopefully to get that bill passed. It's very important. So I'm sure that many of you have faced the challenges of paying out of our pockets for the medical device that we need. For example, I paid $3,500 out of my pockets just for me to put something on my ear, for me to be able to function. This is our life-saving function, everyday life that we need to use to function our everyday life. So I've seen that many of you have taken a picture and so forth. Pretty soon I'm going to put that link into the chat room in case you didn't get the QR code. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to email me. I will send you my email address shortly after this. Who is excited about the Walk for Hearing? So it's too soon. It's coming in October, the first Sunday of the month, October 5th, 2025. We're getting so many positive feedbacks. We got a lot of teams coming in. We got sponsors. Everything is so much fun every year when we host the Walk for Hearing. It's going to be located in Boston at the Soldiers Field Road at Arlington Park. And so it's going to be so much fun. There's a QR code. The QR code will lead into the link for you to register. So you have a choice that if you want to create a team so you can get your family or friends together for this wonderful day, or you can just donate to our HLAA Boston team. And another thing that I didn't get a chance to add on this slide is that because it happened at the last minute, so I just got to confirm today that the Boston Bruins, Todd Argley, who does the national anthem for every home game, is going to be performing at our event for the national anthem. So this is the must-go event. You do not want to miss this opportunity, and we're probably going to have a couple of professional mascots at the games, along with several table vendors such as Phonac, Advanced Bionac, CapTal, so many fun things, kids activities, fake painting, everything. So it's going to be a great day, and we all have so much fun now celebrating it's going to be 20 years of celebrating Walk for Hearing Boston chapter. So I know I'm giving too much information. So our next Zoom meeting like this in September 17th, August, we're taking the month off so everybody can enjoy the last month of summer before everybody goes back to school and so forth, back to their reality lives. So we got Adrian Campbell, who it happens to be one of the board of directors for the HLAA, along with she is also a board of directors at the Museum of Science as well. So she has a company called soundinggood.com. So there's a lot of great things about her. I know that I forgot to add a QR code, but if you go on our social media, there's a QR code over there, and you just go there and you just register, and then it will go automatically probably go into your schedule, so you don't forget about our next meeting. We will send you guys emails about this meeting. So this definitely, you do not want to miss this opportunity and hear a lot about Andrea. And the last thing is, of course, how to get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us through our website, our email, and then as you can see, we have 4 social media platforms. We are actually currently working on a TikTok, so hopefully we get that moving. And so that's so with that being said, does anybody have any, I'm gonna go back to see what the chat room I missed while I was talking, and I think that it looks I caught up with everything. It looks like everybody's saying good things about in the chat room. Okay. Before we parted ways, um, Carrie, is there anything that you would like to add about our upcoming events or among other things?
No, just a big thank you to our speaker and to everyone who attended. And enjoy the last month of summer.
We do have one question.
Yes.
Carol, who is
Yes.
our
Jonathan, are we getting any of the glasses, the captioned glasses, for the tables at Walk for Hearing?
I believe so. I know that Carrie has one with her at all the time. I do know is that the hopefully the Museum of Science will be coming to as one of our table vendors, and they do have the closed captions classes. So yeah, there will be some technology device with closed captions and among other things. So don't worry, we got it covered, Carol.
Yeah, I'd love to
And-
try the different glasses brands. There's so many coming out on the market all around the same time. It's hard to know which one to get.
I know.
We really should find some way of promoting it to them and trying to get as many brands
Absolutely.
there as possible.
Absolutely, I definitely agree. There's so many closed caption classes that are so hard to pick from, and we don't know which one. Same thing with the closed captioning apps on our phone. We don't know
Well-
which one to pick. So
Yeah, I'm not talking about closed captions. I'm talking about captioned glasses.
yeah, I know.
Glasses.
Yeah, I'm just mentioning other
Mhm.
things that we can do. But yeah, thank you, Carol, for adding that. Yes, Carrie.
Yeah, so Carol, we will be meeting with the national organization on Friday. So I will ask that question and let you know what I'm hearing as far as sponsorships from the caption glass companies.
Great.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything you want to add, IB, before we close this out?
Yeah, I just want to thank you all again for welcoming me. It's always a pleasure to connect and to not only share my story, but to also hear your stories. Some of you have shared your stories here. I think that we start somewhere, experiencing that change and experiencing that breakthrough. Sometimes we reminded to give ourselves grace, right? So sometimes it takes a while, it takes consistency, and it takes the determination waking up every morning and said, today is going to be a great day, right? And it moves from today being a great day to being that hearing loss no longer has the power over me. I have the power to rise, right? And I can do all things that I want to do, right? Because there's really nothing holding me back. And so just the belief that You are great. There's greatness in you. Just a reminder that that you are blessed to be around in a time like this, and that you are loved. You are loved. You are not alone. I mentioned the whole isolation. I would say I spent at least 35 years in isolation because with loss of dad and all those people, and then hearing loss, and then finally to open up after I got married and to come out to a place where today I can freely talk openly about hearing loss. I can, no matter what anyone says about hearing loss, and it doesn't get to me because I was determined that this does not have control over my life. And it's the same happening for you. No matter where you are in your journey, every day is a blessed day. Make the best of it. Enjoy every single day. See what works best for you and give yourself grace.
Thank you very much, and you're absolutely right. Thank you for mentioning about that 35 years on the ADA Day. I know that some of
Yes.
us in the chat room attended to the ADA rally, and it was so much fun and inspiring. And we have met so many people over there, so it was definitely a great opportunity to see um, what else we can change and help the community in every way that we can. And so, but yeah, as uh, as you guys can see in the chat room, that I just added our Walk for Hearing Boston chapter. I added my email address, and I'm gonna be right now gonna be adding um the insurance coverage for hearing aid act in the chat room. So your other information. So go ahead and click while you're at it. So I want to do thank you so much to IB for being here today, for inspiring word and being such a motivational public speaker. It's exactly what we're here for. And that was a great opportunity, despite that we couldn't do it at the HLAA convention, but we did it tonight. So thank you so much, everyone. It looks like it's still a daylight outside, so let's take this opportunity and enjoy the beautiful weather before nighttime goes down. So thank you so much, everyone. IB, thank you for being here, and have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye, everybody.